I will call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. If you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Allen. Thank you. I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That will take us to patron comments. Any school district patron may present information to the board at this time. Presentations will be limited to no more than 5 minutes. The board will not take action on any issue not included on the published agenda. However, all comments will be taken into consideration by the Board of Education. Patrons are requested not to discuss individual faculty, staff, or students. Patrons are reminded that this is a public forum and comments relative to individuals could result in litigation. However, any patron may request to meet with the board in executive session. No response will be given by the board at this time. We do not have anyone signed up tonight. Does anybody want to say anything? All right. That will take us to reports. We will start with superintendent's report.
Thank you. Highlights tonight. I want to point out to the board that our year-to-date revenues, expenditures, and even the summary of health premium overages, those numbers all look fantastic for year-end at 99%, 98%, and a balanced health premium overage. But that's because this was all generated after the budget amendment in June. So it doesn't tell the same story that it tells during the school year when we're tracking how we're doing, because at the end we balance our budget no matter what. So I just didn't want to I know I'm letting the steam out of all the good numbers, but that's just the reality of being at the end of the year. And then I do want to draw your attention before we open it up for any questions on any aspect of the administration report. There's a couple of calendar items at the bottom that I want to reinforce. One is on July 29th, you have a calendar invite if you are able to join us to meet new teachers at 8 o'clock. And we'll be greeting our new teachers with some Grain Valley goodie bags, and we would recruit any available school board members to not only introduce yourself, but then to hand out the goodie bags to our new folks. And I know at least a couple of you have indicated that you plan to be there, but just make sure that you RSVP either an up or down on the calendar. And then the reason that the back to school convocation is highlighted for August 15th is because when we had previously given you a heads up, I think I had indicated it was going to start at 8:30, and we're now promoting that to start at 8 a.m. And that wouldn't go well if you waited to show up till 8:30, because I know where that would get me. So please change that in your calendars and get there early so that we can have you enjoy the celebrations. It's always a lot of fun. That's all I have for highlights tonight, but we would open up there. Now, the other items 2 through 6, we're going to go through those, but if there's anything specific in the superintendent's report that you have questions on, we would take that.
Any questions on the main report?
Or is that here?
Here.
July 29th? Thank you.
Hang on. Just one comment, I guess. This report is great. It's been good. I really like what you've done and how this has evolved. But I did want to just as a board, maybe not the second, but just as a takeaway. We have 4 tiles here with different things we're focused on. We've talked about other things pretty regularly, like school lunch debt. We may want to consider adding more metrics to this so that we can see it up front. I don't have anything specific, but just as a board, as we were looking at it, I was thinking we may want to add more up front numbers that we can track.
Okay,
that
yeah,
makes
and I
sense.
know we talked about it previously when this first was generated and we kept kind of going through it, that one of the options that we'd had was just kind of, if it's something important, something that is like glaring, hey, we want you to see this, or the, administration wants the board to really focus on this or know that this has changed, that we could just kind of pull one out, put one in type of a situation as well, right? So, yeah, just as we go through the next months, if something like that occurs, it doesn't have to just maintain these 4 tiles, I think is what you're mainly saying.
That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right, we will move on to the summer school update.
Yeah, I like each year to just kind of wrap up summer school with a few pieces of information about how it went, really. And luckily, I get to all share pretty much joys because it goes really well every year, so it's a fun one to share. But I wanted to kick off our report by just introducing some of our audience members that we have here tonight, which are some of our summer school principals. And they do a 2-year cycle as assistant and then a 2-year cycle as lead. So some of our administrators do this for, well, most of them do it for 4 straight years, but they're somewhere in that journey, which really leads to a lot of dedication and innovation because they just want to make the program better every single year. So I really appreciate that. But I'll just start on the left here. We have Brett Schauberg on the far left, and he was our lead principal at Prairie Branch this year. Right next to him is Ryan Cox, and he was our assistant principal at middle school and high school. In the center there is Tyler Schmidt, and he was our lead principal at middle school and high school this summer. To his right there is Aubrey Perry, and she was our lead at Stony Point. And then to her right is Tiffany Heller, She was our assistant at Prairie Branch this year. So we did obviously have one other member, which was our assistant at Stony Point, and she's just on vacation right now, which was Nancy Leeser. But I can't say enough amazing things. Summer school is always a little bit unexpected. It was so fun to throw a tornado warning at them the second day of summer school, but they followed our emergency procedures to a T. I felt like their communication was excellent. Their support of parents and students and the teachers were excellent. I walked through every building the day after it had occurred, and I mean, they all received unsolicited compliments from every teacher, kids. We got emails from parents. They just did a phenomenal job, and it was the second day of summer school. So, there's always things we'll try to improve each year, but in general, I mean, we get no complaints. I mean, people have a great time. Teachers do, students do, and it's really due to their success. So I just wanted to recognize them tonight for all their hard work, and they start working about January. And then, of course, finish at the conclusion of June, with the exception of Tyler and Ryan, who continue through July with launch. So we still have kids that are emailing them constantly with needing help with online classes and such. So it's a big job. So I really, really appreciate everything they do. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start with sort of what our goals were for this year. We had a goal. I know you've heard the word curriculum a lot, but we did try to take some of our courses that had been around a while and make sure all the links were still working, if there's anything we could do to invigorate it or make it more hands-on or more engaging. We did try to see how we could potentially increase both teacher satisfaction and student satisfaction. So one of the decisions made by this team was to split out our second and third graders. Used to be together. And when our enrollment has been high enough that we split out second and third grade this year, which was a huge success. It helps our teachers and students a lot just with meeting their reading and math needs when they're not grouped together. Those are very different ability levels. We added an agriculture class, say that fast, to third grade at both of the elementary schools. That was really well received. We had somebody from 4-H come in and deliver 10 lessons of that, and it was a great experience as well. So we hope to continue updating curriculum and keep looking at that and making our classes that much more fun and engaging each year. We also had a desire the last couple years, really, this group has come back to me and said it would be really helpful to have a counselor. And we always have counselors that are willing to help teach summer school, but it takes them away from being a teacher to be a counselor. And so you've got to have enough staffing in order to do that. And we were able to accomplish that this year. And I have added a few stats in here about the work that our counselor did, and that was really successful. We did some video promotion to help with kind of explaining the different themes and what is offered for summer school, and I feel like those were really well received and gave students and parents a better idea of what happened in those courses. And then our use of Parent Square, we felt like enrollment was pretty fast. People signed up quickly, didn't say, I never received that communication. When does summer school enrollment come out? Some things we've heard in the past, so that was really good. We did have a jump in attendance in both middle and elementary school, which is awesome. We, again, continue to want to expand course selections for students, and then just being able to staff all the students who want to participate each year. So I'll go a little quicker through these next things, and then if you have any questions, please let me know. The first one is just overall enrollment. You see we continue to grow every year, which is amazing. We had about 50 additional students in person, which is a great jump. We had 143 additional students, whether you count in person and virtual. So it was a pretty significant jump for this year, which again, we think is due to some of the communication and the promotion of that. When you break it out by grade span then, you'll see that both our high school and our elementary were record highs this year. So while high school encompasses both virtual and in person, elementary, of course, is all in person, and they were both record highs this year. So that was great news as well. We track attendance for every grade span except high school, because high school is focused on credit recovery, so you want the kids to leave completed, right? So we don't really track attendance per se, we track credits for that. That's successful. So we want them to get their work done and get on to their summer. So really what you see tracked here are the two elementaries and middle school. We always celebrate this if we get to say this, and we get to say this again this year, that on the last day of middle school, we had over 90% attendance, which if you know middle schoolers, that's really good. So that's another celebration. In high school, we had 111 students come for in-person recovery, as I just mentioned, and they recovered 156.5, if that's what my glasses on, credits, which is amazing. That helps all of those juniors and seniors and even some freshmen and sophomore get back on their ICAPs, get back on their plans. So great work done by the admin and teachers at the high school and getting those classes recovered. I added in another statistic this year. We had 455 students take launch, but we had 141 students take more than one launch class. And why I like seeing that is that opens up their schedule opportunities for during the school year. We have so many kids who are active in so many things, and you just can't fit everything in, especially with A+ and some of the other offerings that we have, unless you take advantage of these summer classes, but it's really hard to force yourself to do this. So I like seeing that go up. But to me, that means we have more kids getting actively involved during the school year because they need those openings in their high school schedule. So that's good. I do track just virtual summer school numbers overall as well. You'll see that it just continues to steadily increase each summer as kids continue to learn about it and take those opportunities to use those courses during the summer. And then here's the slide that I added in that I don't typically have in here, which is about our summer school counseling numbers. Just, it's good information for us. It's our first year of having a counselor to see how impactful it was. You'll see our counselor that we hired for the summer was Kara Long, and then that is her time spent at both South, Stony, and Prairie Branch at the top. You'll see the hotlines that she helped participate in, CSTAG, which is our threat assessment, suicide assessment that she was given, parents contacted, consultations, etc. So to me, it's a huge win, but it'll be something we compare year over year. So we can continue to see the support. We may see a year where we need more than one counselor, but I think it was a welcome addition and really helpful for both our teachers and our administrators this year. So we do send out a survey, and we always look, I will be honest with you, these surveys are so positive that some of them are hard to beat year over year, but they managed to. So we're going to share those wins here. My child was excited to go to summer school every day, was up 5% from last year, and you can see, and that includes the strongly agree and the agree categories added together. It was up an additional 5% this year from last year. But we're reaching such a saturation point that to get everybody happy to go to school every day, we might, we're going to max out at some point. Overall, I'm pleased with this year's summer SOAR program. Again, that was up 2.2%, which I would be happy at just maintaining at this point when you add the agree and the strongly agree categories together. Whether or not our teachers and administrators provide a safe and fun environment, we're at 97.9%. To me, again, that's about as high. We'd just love to see that maintained year over year. That's the most important part, right? I would consider sending my child to summer SOAR next year. That was up another 3%. And again, really high. We get a lot of repeat customers, and that's great because they get to know different kids from different schools, and we really enjoy that. We do also solicit feedback from our staff members participating. I know this is a little bit small, but one of the things that we noticed is we did have somebody that was sort of on the strongly disagree in each one of these. So I did track that person, because it's anonymous, I did track that person's response to a comment, and the comment was absolutely positive, that they loved everything. So I'm wondering if they clicked strongly disagree instead of strongly agree. But we did have a few people who disagreed with a few things, and so we take that feedback, and you'll see that in my goals for next year at the end of the presentation. So we do love the feedback. It helps make us better every year. But overall, people were really happy and said lots of wonderful things, which I took all of the comments that were fed in and looked for sort of major themes, because almost 99% of them were positive. They applauded the supportive and collaborative environment, both from administration and teachers. They talked about the flexible learning. They love that it's thematic and fun and engaging for kids. They felt like it was very well organized and efficient, the way that it was led up to and during. They felt like there was positive student experience and growth from students that they saw even in those 19 days. And then they felt like that the staff that gets hired, that comes back, and the administrators are just top-notch, high quality. So lots of compliments for both their teachers that teach beside them and then the administrators leading them. So it was all very, very good. But I did glean from feedback both from our principals and from the surveys a few things we'd like to do next year. One is on the parent side, we got a lot of compliments on the administration's use of Parent Square and their clear communication, especially during the emergency, but they'd like to see more in the classroom. Some teachers were good about posting a picture every day or multiple pictures, and others didn't. And especially when you have somebody in Camp Kindergarten and it's their first experience at school, getting to see them every day when you've come from maybe a daycare environment with Bright Wheel where you've got pictures every day, that was a lot of an adjustment. So we're going to work with teachers next year to try to make sure that we're, even if it's just throwing up photos in Parent Square so parents get to see what their kids are doing each day. I'm always looking for ways to incentivize staff. So one of the things that I'm toying with is, since we have 19 days of summer school, is potentially paying teachers for an additional 20th day, but to use that as a day of preparation and planning, to basically give them a day before the kids come in to get all of their supplies ready, their room organized. You know, currently they're not compensated if they come in and do that, or they come in day one and are trying to do all that while getting to know their kids or staying after. So that's just an idea that I've kind of thrown out that has been in surveys for a couple of years, that teachers are like, we could really use some time to come in and sort supplies and get our classroom ready. And it's not our classroom normally. So we just need some time to get prepared, go through the curriculum and so on. We do want to continue making curriculum improvements. You know, we split second and third grade. That went so beautifully. I think there'll be conversation right now. The only grouped grade is fourth and fifth. And obviously you've got to have the numbers to keep them separated, but even if we could do some sort of, you know, how close could we get to splitting those? Because again, we do get some feedback from teachers that a fourth grade reader and a fifth grade reader are very different, same with a mathematician. So it would be a lot easier to develop curriculum for the appropriate grade level if we could split those out. And then we had some parent feedback about drop-off and pickup procedures at elementary. We do most years. It is just a lengthy process. We'll continue to reevaluate like we do every year. What could we do differently? What could we do to make it go faster? What could we do to make it the safest? So we'll revisit that, but we do most years and continue making little tweaks till maybe some year we'll get all positive feedback on that one. So we're really looking forward to next year. Next year, I do lose two of my team members. Both Aubrey Perry has served her 4 years and Tyler Schmidt as well. So we will be hiring for those two positions, but the rest of our whole team comes back again for next year. So, any questions? Well, back to the classroom and other leadership opportunities, I can tell you Aubrey does a lot in our district in lots of different leadership roles, as has Tyler, but Tyler actually got hired as a principal of a middle school next year, so he's actually leaving the school district, unfortunately. But we'll miss him. They've done a wonderful, wonderful job, so.
All right. Any questions on the slide deck on summer school?
We've got a few,
All right.
not many. You had mentioned a couple of things. One was that parents didn't feel like they were seeing enough pictures.
Mhm.
Do we, as part of the enrollment, do the, like in normal school year, there's an authorization to post your likeness? Do we do that for summer school too? So like when a new kindergartner comes in and they haven't even been in school yet, they're coming from wherever, do they fill out that paperwork at that point?
So they typically have done the if they are our kindergartner, they will have
Yeah.
done the enrollment process, so we will have had that handbook and that describes for them they've got up to 10 days to let us know if they don't want their pictures. I will say that typically our teachers would post within the classroom. They wouldn't post to, say, social media,
Okay.
which is a little,
Just
a
inside
little more
Power School
confident.
then, so it's controlled?
yeah, it would
Okay.
just be inside Parents Square
Inside
then.
Parent Square.
But they're using their personal phone to take those pictures, correct?
They are.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. You had mentioned, and I can't remember what slide it's on, but the enrollment levels were higher at high school and elementary. Is there a concern that they're higher at the high school because more kids are falling behind during the year? And so they need that credit recovery? Is there a tie there between number of kids falling further behind and that enrollment?
That's a great question. We actually had fewer credits recovered this year because we had fewer students in person. Those numbers are soaring more on the virtual side.
Okay.
So, but we do
Okay.
look at that because it's an important factor for the high school towards graduation rates. Mhm.
Okay.
Great
And then finally, in years past, we really struggled with teacher recruitment.
Mhm.
Any issues this year?
Not really. I mean, we've had to go outside of the district sometimes. I will say I think we had one teacher that was a student teacher here that has gotten hired in another district but stayed after student teaching to do summer school with us. So I guess that's not technically an internal person, but otherwise everybody was internal. But again, I took somebody out to be a counselor that I normally had and, some different things, but they do a really great job. Part of it is the attraction is who they get to work for. But like I said, we pretty much max out every year. So when we take on enrollment, we added another middle school. I will tell you that our middle school had even more teachers who wanted to teach than we had middle schoolers. Their certification isn't for all of elementary, or we could easily utilize them there, but we try our best to keep the highest qualified teacher. So technically they're certified. We could put them in elementary, but we really try to keep elementary teachers with elementary students to, have the best possible program. So I guess what I would say is we haven't gotten desperate enough where we are, robbing Peter to pay Paul and doing some different things that we wouldn't consider the highest quality. So I feel really good about where we are, considering our enrollment continues increasing.
Yeah, and when you had mentioned splitting fourth and fifth potentially, that's, I think, what jogged my memory. We really
Yeah.
struggled in the past to get teachers, so that's great news.
We will. We'll have to do a little recruiting and see what, like I said, it may not be possible, but we were really pleased with what happened with second and third grade this year. We had a lot of comments that were favorable on the survey from doing that, so.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
All right. Any other questions or comments? No? So I want to jump in as well and just commend all of you for your communication to families through Parent Square, especially through that first and second day. I heard lots of positive feedback. I shared that with Dr. Welly, and it was just, it was very positive to hear all the good things coming out of it. So I know you guys just do that on a volunteer basis, and you don't have to spend your time there, but we really appreciate it. So it ran very smooth, and we look forward to continuing your progress through the program. So
Thanks, team. Really appreciate you. And Tyler, thanks for all your service to our school district. Good luck to you, and we'll be tracking you.
Yep.
Nice work.
All right, I think you all are able to be dismissed unless you want to hang out. Thank you again for all you did.
Enjoy.
All right, we will move into the financial summary.
I gave you a little preview on this. These numbers all look like they're zeroed out pretty well, and that's because they reflect your end of budget year amendment that you approved last month. But we still wanted to put that in front of you to just kind of show where the budget landed for the end of the school year.
All right, any questions on the summary for tonight? All right, student lunch debt.
Yeah, as we mentioned last time, had a list of ideas that we wanted to bring back. So Mr. Hooper, Dr. Gooch had attended a session where there were ideas that were being brainstormed through various area school districts. And so what our team did was they kind of organized it into 3 categories: things that are currently underway, and that is, and we did see some success in this, as Dr. Gooch has shared, especially at homecoming and back to school at the high school, that students with negative school balances are not permitted to purchase parking passes, homecoming tickets, or prom tickets, and those first 2 in particular really get their attention in the fall. And then we do, number 2, we do engage our school administration in the collection of student meal debt. However, Dr. Gooch has some ideas for the upcoming school year of how to dial that up, maybe take that to a new level, especially for buildings that have particularly high percentage amount of the overall student debt. Proposing 4 new practices for the upcoming school year that we wanted to share with the board and get a reaction. Number 1, we'll offer to pay off a negative balance to anyone who files for free and reduced lunch and qualifies, because the way it works right now, you could have $100 in the hole, and you do apply and you qualify for free and reduced lunch moving forward, but you still have that debt you need to cover. So we could decide that as a district that we could incentivize, hey, we'll cover that debt for you. I think it would get more applications filled out, even if, you know, maybe more people didn't. We know more applications leads to more qualifications. So we think this would be a worthy investment. Number 2, promote local community donation efforts to cover negative balances. These things are already underway, but we've just let them happen. But we can be more proactive. We know who some of the key players are who like to do this. We can kind of bring them into the fold, make this more officially under the Bright Futures umbrella to meeting the basic needs of kids. So we can, if we hear that somebody's going to promote an effort, we can do more to promote it with all of our families and with the whole community. So there's more we can do there. Number 3, when we have individual balances of 500 or more, or maybe family balances of 500 or more, we could what I would suggest is that we take a year and we just say, we're going to try a collection agency. And as Dr. Gooch has looked at it, 500 seems to be a pretty good threshold. It gives us a certain number that we could go with. And then we can monitor that for a year and see if it really does make a difference for what we're trying to do. And then number 4, we already have a policy provision that we could declare a debt that we had tried to collect, failed to collect. Now former students, we can declare that bad debt, and we would probably do that for balances under $500. Because if it's over $500 this year, we'll turn it over to debt collection, if that makes sense. So these are some things that we think we'd like to try for a year that we think would make a difference. I want to caution, there's kind of an asterisk on the number 4 on the bad debt. Anything, anything on a former student right now is not included in the numbers that we've been tracking. That's a different report. So there's a lot of that we would declare bad debt that isn't going to necessarily change anything for the number that you're seeing, but there's another whole report of bad debt that is out there that, so yes, before we make it better, we're gonna show that it's worse. But these are the four things. And then other options that were considered and rejected from our recommendation would be to not allow a student to enroll for the upcoming school year until balances are paid off or payment plan is created. We're not sure who's actually doing that, but we're not sure that is the right strategy, because if it did work, if it was effective at getting the debt paid, and so now on the second day of school that child can enroll, well, we didn't have that kid in the books, and now he's not in the classes that he wanted, or he's, we're at the point where it puts a classroom over the threshold and we're hiring a teacher. It penalizes everybody involved, and we just feel like it's a little bit heavy-handed. Number two, we did back in the day serve alternate meals for students with negative balances. We moved away from that for a reason, and we'd prefer to try other means. And then number three, not allowing students to participate in extracurricular activities if their lunch balance goes above a certain dollar amount. I suppose there's some aspect of that we could consider moving forward, but it seems to conflict with other things we're trying to do right now with getting kids to participate in activities. And again, the three things at the bottom, they go after the kid, whereas the other things goes, really kind of holds the parent. So we wanted to put this list to you in this way and just gauge any reaction from you.
Dr. Gooch, what percentage of students do you think are responsible for the debt? I mean, is it the vast majority or probably the parents or guardian? Okay. That's what you were saying, Dr. Willie, of kind of feels like maybe punishing the student with some of the alternative options that were rejected?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So what's our current balance again?
Right, so at the end of the summer school program, it went to 105.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we were at 100, right at 100 at the end of the school year, and we added 5,000 for summer school.
Yeah, I guess my opinion is we probably need to more aggressively manage this and create a sense of urgency around it. And if these steps here do it, great. But I would like to see personally like a red line. Like this is where we can't let it get any higher than this. And then what are we trying to manage to? Because if we say, hey, we're going to knock out 100,000 this year, knowing that it's going to continue to grow as well, I just don't think that's probably realistic. What are we really trying to accomplish? Is 25 grand a success, or is that not a success?
If we recoup 25,000?
Yeah, if we could recoup and not let it grow anymore, are we considering that like successful? I guess I'm just looking for those thresholds that would tell me, okay, we're headed in the right direction, other than just saying, well, we chipped away at it, which I think is kind of our approach now, as it's growing and we're saying, we're working on it. I want us to have a little more of a plan in place with numbers that show me that we're headed in the right direction. I hope that makes sense.
Julie, you wanted to say something?
I just
Real
had a
quick, we'll
question
get back to that.
for 3 and 4 on the new practices. Who is going to do this? Who's going to track it? Who's going to follow through? What is the extra work that's going to have to be done in tracking all of that, sending it to collections, monitoring? Like, that's a lot of steps that you're asking for someone to do. Like, I understand where we are at, but I also would like to understand what the workload looks like for 3 or 4, and what does that tag on to someone's job?
Sure. So that would be specifically number 3, where we would set whatever threshold we would like to set. And, the example here of 5 would be additional work and responsibilities on Mr. Hughes, our food service director, his assistant, Angie Novak, and myself.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. I mean, we would definitely we would definitely engage the building administration on this as well. Some of the other ideas that we already have school administration engaged in this, but the latter part of that one would be after repeated attempts. Right now, parents get a daily email, and a lot of times that just kind of you could put up a filter where it just automatically goes in your trash. So what we could do as those additional steps, we would engage administration to maybe help us submit letters, mail letters to families. So it would be, there might be some additional work on administration to, sign off on the letter that's going to be sent home. A thought that I had about this would be if we mail a letter, we would still stick with the daily email, but then we would ramp it up by mailing a letter home, and then maybe the third letter, if we have still not seen any efforts to hit their debt, then I would potentially even consider doing a certified letter. That way, I know that it's been signed for and it's actually been acknowledged that way. And then, then again, really to answer your question, it was just going to be a work that I would do with whichever collection agency that we would work on, and myself and Mr. Hughes and Ms. Novak, we would be the ones who would be doing the majority of that component of that one.
Because that does concern me, as well as Mr. Hughes runs our cafeteria and keeps budget. Like, what does that then put, what suffers because of that? And then I think about the cost of stamps, sealing, certified mail. Like, then
Sure.
we're just building, more
Yeah.
of a cost on
Yeah.
top of the other costs. And then if we have to pay, the people who are doing the debt collection, like,
Yeah.
I just
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
we're just now, like, we're trying to solve one problem while we're spending more money over, like,
And we'll track it closely for the year so that we can, when we evaluate at the end of the year, we take all those factors, including the time that we've put into it administratively. And we'll be reporting along the way as well so that you can kind of see what our progress is.
Yeah, and Dr. Taylor, those are great points, and they're definitely ones I've wondered about because, you have to think, I'm going to throw a fake number out here, but if, let's say somebody has a $1,000 debt, there is going to be cost in recouping that $1,000. So the administrative time into it, what the collection agency, and again, we would have to bid that process out too. So we would see what their percentages would be, and if they collect, they recoup $1,000. Is it 10%? Is it 5%? I don't know. So again, fake numbers, but let's say out of every $1,000 we recouped $800, $850. Yes, there is still that $150 that is still never going to be collected, which could then fall into the fourth one there as bad debt. We're just never going to see that. But it's definitely an opportunity for us to make steps in the right direction. To go back to Mr. English's question, like drawing a line, I'm not sure what we would like to see as a line. I would like to say where we are, watching it just continuously decrease. I would like to say, like, we're never going to get back to this point. If we were to move forward with some of these new practices, I think that's where maybe our baseline becomes, and we strive hard to never hit that again and just continuously always going the other direction.
Yeah, I'd be thrilled with that. I just don't know if it's realistic.
Yeah, I don't know
Like,
if it's realistic either. I
That's
do
what-
know that
yeah.
we're not the only, every single school district, in the metro, and I don't know, I can't speak for the state or the country, but this is a problem that everybody deals with. And I think for us, if we're taking a little bit more drastic steps and we're making progress, I could see a success if we don't hit the $100,000 line ever again. I could see success if, we started this school year at, I want to say maybe 30 or so thousand, and we hit 105. So we grew by a certain percentage. Maybe that percentage shrinks every year. There's a lot of ways, I think, to measure it. Coming up with how do I define what success would be, that's tough.
Well, I think you have to, though. I think that the administration has to come up with what success looks like for us so that we can kind of conduct oversight on that. So I know it's hard, but there's got to be a number, and then there's got to, like, hey, this year we're gonna knock off 25,000 of, and I'm just pulling that number out of the air, out of the debt that we have, and we're not gonna let anything else grow. Is that
And that.
is
I
that
mean,
realistic?
Right. And that could be, all through promoting community donations. I mean, all of that just doesn't really matter how it gets paid down, just
Would
how
there-
much more effort goes into, collecting donations to try and get it paid down.
Will there be a benefit saving some of the soft costs, offering them a settlement of half? We wipe out half, you owe 1,200, here's a settlement of 600, and then we write off 52,000 in bad debt?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
that,
it's, you're splitting, it's,
sure.
you're giving them an opportunity to correct it and make it right, but to Dr. Taylor's point, we're not spending the soft costs to get it either.
So Aaron has a question. Aaron, go ahead.
Thank you. All right, so just for clarification, so is this like an unfunded liability that I guess every school district has, and we're just, how do we, I'm guessing it's not on our budget in terms of, I haven't seen a breakdown of it, but considering it's a bad debt, as we're calling it, what is how do other school districts deal with said bad debt?
I mean, it just stays on their books like that, and honestly, in some cases, really what it boils down to is it just becomes something that some school districts will just, I hate to use this terminology, but they'll just roll it off. I mean,
That's what the policy language around
Yeah.
bad debt does. is eventually you roll it off.
yeah, I mean, what it is like we have our expenses and we have our revenue coming in for the lunch program, and whenever you have the bad debt that accrues like this, as long as you have the revenue, enough revenue to cover it, then they just roll it off, and we do have that within our nutrition program. The catch is though, I mean, we've talked about this at board meetings as well, as how profitable Mr. Hughes and his department really is, and so this would ultimately cut into that profitability as well. So he takes the profit and he's required to spend it back in the food service program. And so if we were to roll off a certain amount of debt every year, that's just less we would have to buy new tables. We may have to shift new tables for a year later, or we may have to, buy one less oven or whatever, things like that.
Has that been done in the past?
Not here, no.
Has that ever been to this number?
No. And we had bad debt, and I don't want to point all the way back to COVID always, but we had some debt from students prior to, but where this has taken off and where school districts have seen this take off is after coming off of free meals for 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's part of my concern. It's you see the number and it's shocking and it's hard to keep it in perspective.
It's a new
Compared to the
trend.
rest of our budget, it's a relatively small amount, but it's still hanging out there. And 4 years ago when we were looking at it, don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was like $15,000. So
Or
it's
less,
just
11,000,
absolutely
yeah.
exploded.
Yep.
And that's what concerns me, is there just doesn't seem to be an end in sight. And I think we've got to find
Sure.
some way to really drive home that this is not acceptable.
Yeah, and I think this is part of the reason why this has been discussed at different business official meetings and various places like that, is because everybody's starting to feel the pressure from this. And so, I know that this topic has also been brought up to our legislators because, hey, we had free meals for years and now we don't. And because of this, families still can't afford their meals, and the schools are starting to take on more of this debt. So it's gone even above just business officials talking about it. People are trying to advocate for some form of change with this, but no, I would 100% agree. It has skyrocketed in the last couple of years.
Currently is the only way to pay their debt through my school bucks.
And no, we'll take, if a family wants to write in a check or anything like that, we can do that as well.
Because my school book still has the threshold of the max amount.
It
that you
does.
can do.
It does have the maximum of $120. I don't quote me on this, but I'm hearing things that they're also considering ticking that up as well, which I would love, because I use that I pay the fee every time my kids need it. But a family, if they don't want to pay the fee, they're more than welcome to send in a check, and that would just get deposited right to their account. So there's no fee.
So like when high school kids go to get their parking, and then does it have to be cleared completely? Like if they run into well, we've paid the max with my school bucks and now we still have this extra, what happens there? Because that's definitely something that motivates people.
Sure.
And then if they can only pay the minimum again and still continue with the practice, like, then it's going to continue.
So what we did last year with especially, and I will say, I mean, the homecoming tickets and prom tickets, they were a big deal. It was the parking pass that was the big driver, right? And no pun intended there also, sorry, didn't mean to, that was corny. But what we did is we allowed families to, anybody that had a negative balance over, and we set it last year as $100, then they had to get their debt down below $100 in order to be able to purchase the parking pass. If they had an exorbitant amount, then they needed to set up a payment plan with myself or with Mr. or Dr. Smith, and they would have to communicate how they were planning to take care of it. So, I could send in $100 every 2 weeks or whatever until my debt falls. And so as long as they set up a plan or got it below $100, then we went ahead and let that happen.
And
Now,
then the oversight of that plan was.
yeah, that was, yeah. And so what ended up, I will be honest, what ended up happening with that is, they would set up a plan, but I was not, and Mr. Hughes and Dr. Smith, we didn't watch every 2 weeks to make
Right.
sure everybody was truly living up to their word. And now we would definitely know which families made those plans, and I would evaluate the list, as Mr. Hughes would send it to me and see if the family has been able to maintain it. Some were able to maintain that. They paid it down and they were able to maintain it or completely eliminate it. And then there were a few others who made the initial steps and then they just didn't keep up with it. And the hard part at that point is the only thing I can do is we didn't revoke parking passes at that point because they already had it. What we did then is it would come back around and hit when it was time for prom. Like, well, we know you did this at the beginning of the year, but now you can't have prom tickets. And so that was how we repeated it.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to ask one question. Is it possible, I know we didn't revoke, but is it possible to do like a semester parking pass situation on situations like this when you have someone who's, not
Compliant?
there you go. And revisit it again and just let them know that up front that, hey, we will revisit this second semester if this isn't, there's not follow through here or something. Is that something
Well, I
that
think you
could?
just do it as a semester only, and it would have to be revisited to be looked at
You mean for everybody or
If
just
you're on
for?
a payment.
if you're
Just if
on a
you're on-
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that could be something that I could have Mr. Hughes and myself and Dr. Smith and the rest of his administration. I could sit down with that group and just, look at it and say, all right, if we have these 10 students who have asked to set up a payment plan, great. They're taking steps. Their families are taking steps. We're gonna meet again on whatever day it may be and say, did they do what they said they were going to do? And if not, then at that point we could, reach back out to the family and say, we're going to revoke this because you weren't able to keep up with it. I mean, that definitely is another, a new practice that we could definitely look into doing. So I wrote that down
If
because
parking pass is the driver, as you say, then seems to me like we ought to focus on ways to make that
Sure.
the sting a little bit, because I think kids are going to have to push it with their parents to pay, and I think they can get around the tickets, the prom tickets, the homecoming tickets, or whatever, and not worry about those so much.
Sure.
But having parking pass is important to them, I think.
It is. And, I would say the parking pass thing, it was, parking passes and homecoming are so close together that I don't know if homecoming was, what was the big driving factor? Again, I really believe that it was parking. It wasn't the homecoming and the prom, because I think if they were separated by a couple of months, I think we would have had the same turnout for homecoming tickets as we did for prom. We would have probably recouped a few $1,000s. But again, I feel like that parking thing is the big deal. So, yeah, I feel like we can make notes on the individuals who asked to set up payment plans and revisit that. That's something that I can talk with Dr. Smith and his administration, and I'll work with Mr. Hughes on that and say, hey, this is something we can try as well. It's easy. I like that. Thank you for that idea.
All right. Any other comments? So the administration is tasked with coming up with the threshold of what we're not willing to go past. Threshold and target.
Okay, and then I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like control this, but are we okay with the 1 through 4 still as that? Because if that's the case, then I need to start figuring out, debt collection companies as well. And I don't know if, I just wanted to make sure that you give me direction to do that. I'd go do that, so, because I have no
Is
idea.
that a motion?
No, it's not a motion.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Gooch, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Take whatever steps necessary,
I can tell by the head nods, that's where I was going.
Okay.
Thank you.
other than giving them a separate, different lunch. All right. That will take us to exit interview summary.
Yes, so we work hard to get this feedback, and when we reach out to anyone who is leaving the organization, we also offer an in-person interview, and some do take us up on it. So I just kind of want to walk through the outline here for of the summary. You have on the initial, you have the staff resignations for the school year. You have it broken down by percentage. These are pretty similar to where we were last year. I would say the biggest changes from a percentage standpoint is that transportation, which was made up 12% of the resignations this year. Last year they were 19, so they're down from 19 to 12. Valley Kids a year ago was made up 6% of the resignations, and this year they made up 11% of the resignations. So those are the two most significant changes year over year. And then you also have it broken down by role, which those were pretty even. Again, you've got transportation had 11. A year ago they were at 15, and Valley Kids had 10. A year ago they were at 5. So then you have the next bar graph shows how we're trending on our certified resignations. Teacher is in the blue bar, administrator in the orange. And you can see we're pretty steady 2 years in a row there. And the line graph is just another way to show the same data. Then it breaks down the non-certified resignations by department over the years. We like to track that to see if there's anything there that stands out, followed by the certified resignations by building. Nothing too wild there. Once in a while, a building will have a spike, but really nothing this year that stood out. Then certified exit interview summary. For the certified, we had 15 responses out of 25, so 60% of our certified resignations participated in the survey. And then you see the different buildings that they represent and the reasons that they're leaving the district down below. So the 40% in the red, that's for new employment. That's up from 26% a year ago. And retirement was in the blue at 26.7%, and that's up from 15.8% a year ago. So those were the two most significant reasons, and both of them increased from the previous year. The next one, how long were you employed by the district? The big group, 40%, was 1 to 3 years. And the 10-plus year group, which is kind of purple, they were at 26.7%. That one is down. That group represented 42% a year ago. So we lost, what it says is, we lost a higher percentage of our experience the previous year who participated in the exit surveys than what we had this year. Then we get into specific questions and their responses. And this was strictly on a 5-point scale, with 1 being low and 5 being high. So please rate your satisfaction with your work environment. And it goes on through the questions. These were pretty similar to the results a year ago, or slightly better in some cases, in terms of the, how satisfied they were, or the quality of the ratings that they gave. And then I want to draw your attention to the next pie graph, which is, did your pay or benefits, medical and other, play a significant role in your decision to leave the district? So 80% said no, and this was an increase up from 63.2% the previous year. So that's actually a pretty significant increase for people saying that pay or benefits was not the reason why they left. We don't want our people to leave, especially our best people, but if they leave on the year that after we pass a levy measure, we don't want it to be because it's an increased percentage saying they're leaving for pay and benefits. So it was one affirmative measure. And then the next pie graph, would you recommend Grain Valley Schools as a place to work? You can't beat 100% saying yes, and that is up from 78.9% yes in the group that left the previous year. Then on the non-certified side, we had 23 responses out of 62, or 37% reporting, and that's not great, but it is up from last year's participation in the survey, which was 25.6%. So the efforts are, we do feel like our efforts to stay relentless with anyone who is leaving shows that we really do care about what they have to say. So you see the breakdown by building. You see the reasons why they're leaving the building. I will point out, why are you leaving the district? The 9.5% in the light green, it was left blank in the table. That's just the other category. So it was a reason not otherwise listed. I think it was one person. I think it's how that worked out. Maybe it was 2. How long were you employed by the district? This is the group that makes up the red, which is 1 to 3 years, or the blue, which is less than a year. You can see combined, those are 70, 82%, 82.6%. These are both up from the previous year. So what we're seeing in both the certified and the non-certified is we're having higher turnover with less experience, people who have been with us for a less amount of time. And then it gets into the satisfaction feedback. And again, similar to the certified side, the results were similar or a little bit better than what we saw a year ago. And then to the pie graph, did your pay or benefits play a significant role in your decision to leave the district? 69.6% said no, and this is an improvement over 57.1% the previous year. So pay was less of a reason. And would you recommend Grain Valley Schools as a place to work? 89.5% said yes, and that's up from 85% a year ago. That's kind of a quick overview, but we would entertain any questions that anybody has on that.
Any questions or comments on the exit interview summary? Okay, none tonight. Thank you for that. That will take us to the 2025-2026 training list.
Yeah, so this is a list of the training modules that our employees will take online. They'll do these this fall. The list gets longer every year. This year we have 8 new required modules, and it's estimated for some of our certified personnel it could take up to 12 hours to complete. The ones that are new, you can see the first one that's new is number 2, and after the heading in all caps it'll say new, and also the descriptions in bold. So the idea is that those will kind of jump out. And what Ms. Frederick did for us is she also kind of changed the subheadings so that you can see who has to do what. So the first group is all staff have to do those annually. And then there's one just for teaching staff annually and admin staff annually. And then she breaks it down, new staff. So, and the first time that something is required, then everybody has to take, everyone in that category has to take that module as well. So with 8 new required modules, it'll be, our folks are gonna need some time this year. So working on making sure they have the time to do that.
Just to clarify that, anything that's new, everyone has to take. New courses will be completed by all staff.
Yes. I was just gonna look to see if there was any exception. No, everything labeled new this year is gonna have to be taken by everybody.
Everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any questions on the training list?
Just real quick, when you say that they're required by the state of Missouri or required by the insurance provider, who's requiring this?
Do you know, Dr. Gooch?
I believe there is, some of it is, there's the insurance module in there that is because of music, and I believe the rest of it is through MSBA in the state of Missouri.
So,
Dr. Allen?
so both?
Desi.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's a window, Ms. Frederick sends out an email explaining everybody, you know, hey, the training is gonna start at this time, it'll go through this time. And then as we approach the deadline, she starts to send reminders to individuals, and then eventually she'll send reminders to their administration as well, as the list gets shorter.
All right, any additional questions on training list? All right. That will take us to unfinished business. We will start this portion of the meeting with the superintendent search. So just to give everyone an update, we did complete our RFP process. All of our respondents were to be back with their proposals by July 3rd at 4 p.m. That was when the deadline closed. Everything was sent via email to Dr. Taylor. Dr. Taylor then was able to put those into a format for all of us to look at. And I'm assuming everyone has had a chance to review the 6 proposals we received. So what I'd like to do tonight is just kind of open it up for anyone that has specific comments or questions about any of the proposals in specifically, and then we'll try and narrow it down to, I'd say, 3. Unless there's an objection, then we can revisit that. We'll narrow it down to 3 candidates to bring in for an interview. So, search firm, thank you for that. Yes, search firm candidates for interviews that will help us through the rest of the process. Thank you. Does anybody have any comments to start on any of the proposals? Okay. No? All right. So just to give a broad view of, from a pricing perspective of what came in, the proposals ranged anywhere from around $7,800 to provide their search, I guess, oh my gosh, to help us with their search, all the way up to $40,000. And there's different firms from all over the country. Like I said, we did have six firms. One of the firms that I've ranked in my top 3, there's no real order to them, was Ray and Associates. Another one that I had ranked was the one from Hazard Young Eta Associates, HYA. And the third one that I had ranked was the one from MSBA. Again, there was no order to those. The costs between the three, Ray and Associates was $22,500 to provide the services for the search. HYA was $26,500, and MSBA was $15,600. With that, is there any questions or discussion?
So we didn't have like a rubric or anything to work with. So we probably looked at them based on different criteria.
Correct.
So I ranked mine yes, no, maybe.
Okay.
And I will say that my two yeses were the HYA and MSBA, which is consistent with yours. And then I had Ray and Associates as one of the maybes. So I'm comfortable with that
As well.
as well.
All right. Anyone else have anything? Same? Same. Aaron, give you a chance to chime in if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm actually in agreement with that. MSBA would be my first.
Okay.
And, yeah.
All right. So would I say that we are all in agreement that we should invite all three of them to an interview, or would you like to narrow it down to two? You want two? 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 Okay. So do we want to do HYA and MSBA?
Jared, were you saying that, like, you would prefer 3 or 1? Like, I just saw your face and wanted to let you talk.
I don't have a real strong opinion. I thought 3 was a good number. I'm okay with 2. I had listed 2 as my yeses, and that was MSB and HYA. So if we're all in agreement with those 2, I think that makes sense. If there's somebody that wants a third one, then we need to.
I
that in.
felt that Ray and Associates had quite a bit to offer. I did like their guarantee. If the superintendent was to leave within 2 years and the majority of the board members were still currently on the board, they would help with the search for no fee if that happened. So that was one of the satisfaction guarantees that I did like that they provided. And they're right in the middle cost-wise between HYA and MSBA. So I would be open to having all 3 of them come in, but it's not an end-all be-all. I think probably between 45 minutes to an hour is what I would plan on, maybe 45-minute presentation, 15 minutes for questions type of a thing. I think we're gonna set the time frame, and that's what it is. I think they know what their presentation is. If they can't stay within their time frame, then that gives us a all right. So let's plan on that. We'll plan on bringing all 3 firms in. And we will bring MSBA, Ray and Associates, and HYA in for interviews. So the next part of this conversation would be, we need to try and determine a day to do that. I hope everybody has a calendar right now. If we can't come up with a date pretty quick, then we will take it offline, and I'll ask Dr. Welly to help consolidate some dates. I would like to have the opportunity to vote on our final candidate by August 7th. That's the goal. So, the final, this is who we're going to select. The final selection, I would like to put it up for a vote and passage at the August 7th workshop. So, you say Wednesday evenings? Tuesday and Wednesday evenings. It might have to be during the day. I'm not sure. Or Saturday mornings.
Well, I think the other variable here is their schedule, and I think there may need to be some flexibility. I'm not sure that we could get all three of them here on the same
day.
night, and there may have to be some flexibility with this group where we just can't all make it, and we just would have to be okay with that, I guess.
So, I guess in the interest of time, I will reach out to all three of these candidates and see when they have availability next week. Is there any time, so you say Tuesday and Wednesday evenings are best for you. Are there other times that are not good for anybody that's here? Okay?
Yeah, I'll do my very best to make whatever work.
Okay. Same. Okay, very good. I will find out tomorrow what kind of availability they have. Hopefully, they want our business good enough just to figure out how to make it work. All right.
Is on their end, I don't know that they're all local. I'd have to go back and look at, some of them aren't,
Right.
right? Is a virtual meeting an option?
I'm not gonna say it's not an option. I prefer it not to be a virtual meeting.
I
just
prefer
get a
it-
much better feeling from
Yeah.
people in
No, I
person.
agree.
Yeah, I mean, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Arlington Heights, Illinois, looks like.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're not too far, but let me just reach out to them, see what they say, and then we'll
Okay.
revisit here. Hopefully tomorrow. All right. The next item on the agenda would be school board meeting calendar for the 2025-2026 school year. I would look for a motion to approve the school board meeting calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion or questions on the calendar? All right. All in favor of approving the school board calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda will be the health benefits for the 2026-2027 school year.
Yes, we are operating with the intent to put our health benefits out to bid over the next year for the following school year, and there's no, so that is a known thing. What we want to do while it's fresh is we want to have a discussion with the board and get your input of, give us your ideas, however big or small, of the types of things you're going to want us to look for. And the conversation we don't have to capture it all tonight, but just want to start a conversation tonight. And after tonight, if you have other things that you think of in the days ahead, just reach out to Dr. Gooch or I, so that we can, as we put a plan together and we bid this out, that the idea is what we bring back to you moving forward. We just want to make sure that we've captured, because there have been some really good questions and concerns along the way, but you know, each individual may have their own thing that they like or don't like about what you see from a school board perspective on the health benefits that we offer. And we just want to make sure that when we go to the effort, that we are looking under every stone along the way. So we just see if there's any, and maybe there's no discussion tonight, but we just wanted to provide the opportunity for any discussion and input on it.
All right. Jared, do you have anything to add to this tonight?
Sure. I think this is an excellent exercise in due diligence. Honestly, I think we're going to probably end up right where we are now, but we don't know that until we try. So that being said, I think a crucial component will be benchmarking with other districts and maybe even not districts, just healthcare in general, not only from a price perspective, but also from a benefit perspective, just to see what's out there, what other groups are doing. So, you know, I don't know if that's an independent broker, not Mercer, but somebody else that does that for us just due to conflict of interest, or if they can pursue that for us. But I think that's critical. And then, of course, bidding out to other groups. I think we're currently with Cigna. Would you be bidding this out as a fully insured plan, or would you be doing a self-insured plan just through another network? How would you, or would you do both?
Well, I would say I would think we would look at both. I feel like maybe the next step for us would be to find a brokerage company that would look into that for us. And so I would go out to the market and try to find, you know, I'd send out an RFP or at least contact some local ones and just kind of say, all right, here's what we're looking for. And I know there's a few here in town, so we would, I would start having those conversations and then really just tell them what it is we're looking for. We are currently in a self-funded consortium. So that would be, you know, is this in our best interest, or is it to be just individually by ourselves self-funded? Because there are school districts in the metro that do that. And then is the other option is just to be, not self-funded and just fully pay into one of the health insurance groups' plan and just kind of see what is truly, and they'll look. I mean, brokerage firms will look at comparison between organizations our size, other school districts, and so on. And so, because I do know of one of the individuals, one of the school districts that just joined the consortium that we're currently in, just went through this exact process as well. So they hired a firm to do the analysis for them and steered them in that direction.
So when we've done surveys in the past of our staff, have we kept it very general? Like, do you like your insurance? And they say yes or no. Or have we gotten specific? Like, what do you like about? You can't really ask an open-ended question, but are we drilling down and trying to figure out what they like, what's important to them?
Is it affordable to buy in for their family, significant other, those sort of things?
Well, yeah, and even getting down into specific benefits like the deductibles and
Yeah.
some of those other components and maybe we're kind of saying the same thing, but yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten into the most, when we get specific feedback, it's from an employee whose family's in a very specific situation and
Sure.
they've hit a roadblock, and that's how we get the feedback. But honestly, the last couple of years, I can't think of a situation where we've gotten such feedback, where a family has hit a roadblock in their coverage, where they've been really disappointed with us. But I think it's worth asking that question, you know, as we enter into the bidding process.
Yeah.
If you have a story to share about your healthcare experience with us over the last few years, would you be willing to share it? And not that they have to come to a board meeting, but we can behind the scenes, we can capture their story so we know what kinds of issues that we might want to solve. But in general, when somebody comes onto our plan, you know, the feedback we usually get is, wow, this is a really good plan. Comparatively, I mean, nobody's coverage is take care of everything.
Sure.
but we get pretty positive feedback.
We want to take care of staff, and we want to remember that this is a retention tool for employees. So
Correct.
that's important. I guess my point is cheaper is not necessarily going to be better. But I do think that this process is important. I'm happy that we're going through it. I'll be curious to see where we land, but I think that we're probably pretty well placed with our current carrier, so I wouldn't want them to get too spun up over the fact that we're looking at this. This is just
Well,
an exercise. And
I gave, at the last board meeting, I gave verbal acknowledgement that we were going to do this, and then I formalized it by writing a letter to the board and presented that to all of them as well. And so our administrator and the board all know that this is happening. They're not, I wouldn't say they're going to get all worked up about it. Other school districts that are in the consortium with us do this as well. So they're used to it.
I also want to set the expectation. I know I'm throwing a lot out there, different directions, but I also want to set the expectation with Mercer that we're not real satisfied with the level of analysis that they're providing to us as a board. So my expectation would be that you've done an excellent job presenting, but then we have specific questions. My expectation is that they're here at least once a year talking to us about claims cost and loss ratios and those sorts of things so that we can really understand where our money's going and,
Sure.
and the value of the plan.
Yeah, they do that with our group, like our, the directors and all this, the school districts are represented there as well. But to ask for them to be able to come and present that to you guys, I think that's completely fair.
Yeah, I think it's very reasonable that
Yeah,
they come at
absolutely.
least
I mean,
once a year.
you're approving, moving forward with their continuing with them. So I feel like that's definitely something that's very reasonable. So
I mean, I would even look at it maybe even twice a year. I mean, see where we're at midway through and closer towards the end, just see what changes could have made, things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges that change year over year.
Yeah.
Specialty drugs and things that will drive prices. Yeah, I think that twice a year is probably also reasonable.
No.
We don't need them here every month.
No. Nope. All right, any additional requests, things to look at?
Mine's kind of delayed, but what you were talking about, I don't know that it's necessarily like, yes, we want to hear the stories of the staff that have had issues, but I think it's just, what do you look for in a good insurance company? Like, what are you looking for? I mean, it doesn't have to be a story or something didn't work out, but a lot of them have spouses or something that they know what other people have to offer. What would they like to see for us? So I think their stories are interesting, but I think it's also sending out some sort of survey of what are you looking for in health insurance would be beneficial as well.
sure.
All right.
Dr. Allen's doing a great job capturing all of those thoughts. So thank you for those. And thank you for doing that.
And they're also captured for eternity.
Yeah, that's
So
very true.
You
very
can
true.
always go back and.
Yeah, I can go back and watch the board meetings. I do it all the time.
All right, anything else to add on the health insurance? All right, thank you. That will take us to new business, the CSIP annual priorities for the 2025-2026 school year.
Very good. We have 3 priorities, draft priorities for the upcoming school year. And I am going to give a quick overview of each of the 3 and then open it up for any questions, but you're certainly welcome to interrupt me along the way. We're going to move it along. We're going to start on page 3. The first 2 pages are just the 5-year goals and where we want to be. And I'll remind the board that this is the 5th year coming up on our 5-year plan. But on starting on the 3rd page, it has the objective is taken from the goal that we will provide a personalized learning experience to prepare each student for the future. And so priority number 1 is to refine student feedback practices to emphasize timely, meaningful, and evidence-based guidance that accelerates student learning, supports skill development, and fosters academic growth. So a little background on this one. For the school year just ending, we launched an ambitious 3-year curriculum development plan. This plan is designed to ensure that every student has access to a rigorous and effective curriculum. A critical component of the initiative is providing our teachers with robust professional development in multi-tiered systems of support, also known as MTSS, specifically focusing on addressing and overcoming reading deficiencies. The integrated approach ensures that we can accurately measure student learning while also providing targeted interventions for continuous growth and mastery. For the upcoming school year, our focus on feedback and grading on evidence system is built on 5 core commitments: providing specific and transparent feedback, separating academic achievement from behavior, reporting achievement by standards on a 4-point scale, basing scores on a comprehensive body of evidence, and offering multiple opportunities for students to demonstrate proficiency. So even though this is one priority, there's 4 big measures here. By May of 2026, number 1, we will have engaged teachers in professional development for curriculum writing and continue to develop a viable curriculum in all courses. And just to the right of there on the funding source and the budget, you'll see that $90,000 is earmarked in there, and that is predominantly for that effort. It's the time and energy and what it costs to develop the curriculum. Number 2 is establish clear and transparent grading and assessment practices across all grade levels to foster consistent expectations, improve student outcomes, strengthen communication with families. And that third part is just an ongoing, like that's where we have to put a lot of energy, is making sure, because if they don't understand or they don't feel comfortable, then all of our best efforts behind the scenes aren't going to matter. If the client who actually needs to know and understand the feedback can't make sense of it, then it's not doing us any good. Number 3, provide professional development focused on delivering specific, actionable, and student-centered feedback that promotes growth and understanding, so helping our teachers get better at providing the feedback. And number 4, create a systematic process to identify students with both a substantial reading deficiency, issuing them an RSP, and a high absentee rate. Upon identification, we will develop a collaborative attendance plan. This measure is a key component that is a CSIP requirement, and so that's why you've seen it every year for the last few years, is because it's a required part of our MSIP, is that we integrate that in to our academic priorities. So that's our academic priority for the year, but you could see there is a lot wrapped into that. Last year we took an approach where we kind of parsed it out a little bit, and this year we just thought we would put it under one umbrella. Any questions on number 1?
Yeah, under measures, sorry, did somebody else? I don't want to jump in front of anybody. Okay. Under measures for 25, 26, number 1, it says engage teachers. Is that all teachers, or is it a subgroup of teachers?
For the curriculum writing, it's going to be a lot of our teachers because there's so much curriculum to be written. So it'll be everybody who's involved in curriculum.
So is there a way to put a number around that so that or a percentage so that we have?
I do know we have a separate measure for how many courses we're going to develop in the next 12 months. Do you happen to have that at your fingertips?
Yeah, I can get you that number.
You might want to
but
consider, I don't
it's good. Yeah,
need it.
it'll be high.
but-
Yeah.
Okay, you might want to consider adding it to
Sure.
the measure just so that you have something that we can.
We can drop that in before we bring it back
Yeah,
to the
I think
board.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, priority number 2, this is under the goal of providing a learning environment that is collaborative, safe, and inclusive. So this priority is to deliver professional development to support the systematic approach necessary for Tier 2 behavior supports, grades K through 8. So there's quite a bit of background there, but I want to focus straight on the measures here that at the elementary, we feel like by the end of this year, will be fully implemented in Tier 2 behavior supports. They're well positioned coming off of the last school year. It is a challenging goal, but it's one that we expect to accomplish. And middle school tier 2 behavior supports are working towards full implementation. So middle school is not expected to hit the mark of being able to, everyone feeling confident they are fully implemented, but they should be close enough that the following year we should be batting cleanup on those efforts to make sure that we're fully implemented. And part of that, and we've reported this to the board already, was feedback from middle school teachers was that they feel they would benefit from a Tier 2 intervention menu, and that development's already underway, so we hope to report on that this fall. The budget on this one is $42,950, and I believe all of that, nearly all of that comes from the Children's Services Fund, with some, maybe a little lesser amount from general revenue. Is that correct, Dr. Allen? Any questions on priority number 2?
Sorry, you probably knew this was coming. My question is that our Big Rocks, it says that we are working for a collaborative, safe, and inclusive environment, specifically focusing on training our staff in diversity. However, it looks like objective 2 is focusing mostly on character ed for K through 8. I mean, I understand that it says 12th grade, but I'm wondering what that character ed truly looks like at a high school level, and it primarily focuses on behavioral. And so my question is that, I mean, it specifically states in the Big Rock, number 4, provide diversity training. We've actually removed the only piece of diversity training that our staff gets with the new, which I understand 12 hours of training is a lot, but how are we incorporating all 4 points of that particularly Big Rock if it's not being mentioned?
Dr. Allen, you want to take that?
Sure. So our 6 through 12 students participate in Human Connection Hub, whereas our elementary does Character Strong. Developmentally, we feel after our committee, I shouldn't say we, our committee felt that that was most developmentally appropriate. Dr. Reich and I were both able to go into the high school last year multiple times during Eagle Time to see a lesson implemented in both 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, because they are very different than the middle school. They are a lot more student-driven than teacher-driven, if you will. There's an entire range of topics, but I would say that the topics for Human Connection Hub are not centered around behavior as much as just Tier 1 instruction of, and Dr. Reich, you might be able to pull up topics easier. She looks at it much more frequently than I do. But it would certainly leave an open forum for discussion on various of topics that all center around basically how to get along with one another, conflict resolution, as well as acceptance of others. Like I said, I could defer to you if you would want to talk about any of if you want more information.
Well,
on
I
the
just, I
specific
mean, and
topics.
that's
Yeah.
fine, because
Yeah.
it's clearly
Yeah.
stated, like, what we're going to do for our students, but it says provide diversity training for team members. That's my question. We took out the one piece of their training, and as I'm asking you, because when I look at what your objectives are and what your plan is, there is nothing about providing diversity training to our staff in that. So, except for behavioral or character ed, and I understand that.
Yeah. I have extensively looked at various options for training for staff. Gone so far as to meet with people to price, and honestly, a lot of it got put on hold at the end of last school year just from mandates coming from Department of Education. I was just waiting for a little more guidance to determine what we are able or not able to do that's tied to funding. So honestly, I've just kind of been on hold since then, but I have done the research part of it. I haven't gone to the implementation phase at this point.
So I would be curious as a board where that conversation comes up, because if it's part of our Big Rocks and it's part of our CSIP plan, we need to be meeting all aspects of it, not trying to just pass over one saying we do this, this, or this. What are our staff getting for our growing diverse community?
All right, any other comments or questions on that one? All right, we'll move on to number 3.
Under the goal that we will maintain class sizes consistent with district standards, we have priority number 3, which is to provide the appropriate facilities to meet the academic and extracurricular needs of our students with improved safety in mind. I am going to spend a little bit of time on the background here. As our elementary schools are approaching capacity due to growth in certain special education programming, we did do a preliminary assessment of Matthews Elementary completed this last school year, resulting in a recommendation that the addition of classrooms at Matthews would be needed to raise the school capacity to be a true 4-section per grade level building in line with the other elementary schools. Last November, we heard from a completed demography study that revealed that the addition of a 5th elementary school would probably not be appropriate at this time, given the slower anticipated growth over the next 10 years of our student population overall. So a revised long-range facilities plan was released in the spring that was led by our architects that included the principles for additions and renovations to meet the needs of students. And we also remind the board we have a facilities planning committee that continues to be engaged in our long-range facilities planning. So with that, our primary measure is by December, we would have a plan to the board with language, draft ballot measure language for an April 2026 bond issue that would address priority capital improvement needs. We don't spell out what those improvement needs are at this point because the list is long, but even last month, we presented with the board what our narrowing list of priorities are, and we can certainly revisit those again with you tonight, but it's in that same, still going in that same direction. There is, I'll also say on the budget, you don't have a dollar amount here, but we are tracking down what our pre-design costs, architecture costs would be, as we lead up to the framing of a potential ballot measure. So there will be a cost associated with this. We know that we have a proposal for some collaborative work to kind of assess the needs of our SPED programming across all the elementary schools. And we know that some of those efforts will cost us. We know what those are going to cost, but we want to make sure we have a better full estimate of what all this pre-planning would cost us. But I would entertain any questions on this priority.
All right. Any questions on priority number 3?
Now, even though it's just 3 priorities, there's a lot in there, and I will point out, and it's listed at the bottom of the page there, there's a lot of opportunity for community engagement this year, even more so than in the past. This fall, we will outline an exercise called to develop a portrait of a graduate, where basically we're gonna try to articulate that vision that defines the skills and knowledge and attributes that our students should have upon graduation from our school district. The school board has taken the lead, obviously, on the superintendent search, and regardless of which search firm we use, I'm sure that they're gonna have creative ways to engage the community in that process and help the board make an informed decision on the next superintendent. This is also the 5th year of our 5-year CSIP plan, so we could potentially in January, February, March timeframe, we could be engaging the community after the naming of a superintendent on pulling people together to bring a recommendation to the board for what that next 5-year plan, what those next round of big rocks might look like. And then presumably if we accomplish priority number 3, then we will also have a bond campaign going on in the spring session. That right now looks like the strongest possibility would be that we push pause on our high school long-range facilities plan, and we take the opportunity on this bond issue to address several other large needs within the district that have developed. So I'll strike these 4 things before you finally approve the priorities, but I just wanted them listed tonight so that we could kind of make sure that we frame that even though it's 3 priorities, there's a lot of things going on this school year that'll keep everybody engaged.
So since you brought that up, the new 5-year CSIP strategic plan, I think Jared is the only current member on this board that has ever been through this process of developing and generating a strategic plan, the CSIP. What is the process for that typically?
So what we will do, and I think we may have other board members who participated as parents or in place.
I wasn't obviously on the school board at the time, but I was part of the committee the feedback group as to what they did and how they collected information. Collected information. Someone facilitated that. We met multiple different times, worked in different groups and alongside with teachers as well and different staff members to really pull out what the community prioritized as well as how that worked within the school. It was a really neat process to be part of, that, Dr. Welly, do you remember how many times we met?
We met 2 or 3 times. The last
We met
time was
multiple times.
January, February of 2020. And because of it might have been later than that. We met
Yeah, I was
7
gonna
meetings.
say, there was a
Okay.
lot. No, there was a lot. I was like,
Okay.
3? That must have been long. No, because we engaged the entire year.
So, and each time we've done it twice. Each time it looks a little bit different, just depending on the circumstances of the time. But we would engage an outside facilitator, and then the board basically, it's kind of like the committee work that you do. You frame the parameters of what you're looking for, but the way it looked like the last time is the page 1 of your annual priority packet for this meeting. There was we revisited the vision, the mission statement. I think the motto actually came out of this last one, where we said our mission included the phrase "every student, every day," and we just thought that was catchy enough that we wanted to designate it as a motto. We looked at the core beliefs. In fact, we added core belief number 6 this last time. Having families in the community engaged with our schools makes us more effective. So that was a result of the recommendation there were 60, I do remember there being 60 members in the community that engaged with us through that process. And our facilitator had never seen that many people engaged. What he had encouraged us to do was to invite a certain number of people, or just like designate who your community members were going to be. But we were in the pandemic at the time, and we're like, really, we want whoever is willing to come out and join us. And 60 people showed up. We didn't turn anybody away. We had students come and be a part of the process. And then really, it's just facilitating those nights to kind of get us to envision what is the future, what is the desired future state? So where do we want to be 5 years from now as a district? And that could really take us anywhere. And 5 years ago, this is where we took us. The ideas got organized into effective teaching and personalized learning, collaborative, safe, and inclusive environment, equipped and supported team members, and engaged families and community. Under some of those big rocks, there were some very specific things that the group recommended. In others, this is just a broader vision of where we want to be. I would say that on reflection, we've done some really big things. We've gotten competitive with our pay, and when that was drafted and recommended to the board 5 years ago, those of us involved were just like, well, all right, we're gonna have to try to figure this out, because if we knew how to do it, we'd already be doing it. So when you put it down and you say, as a community, this is what we're committed to, then that's what we've worked for. Have we knocked all of them out of the park? Absolutely not. And Dr. Taylor gave us an example tonight of a theme that was really important in those community engagements at the time. That no, I wouldn't give us a solid A on that one. But there's a lot of other big things that we said we wanted to be different about that I feel that we have accomplished. I think we can set a framework to say our intent is to do this work this year, but I would give it a caveat that you really want your next school leader to be available for that journey and that process. So this board is starting the search so soon that I don't see anything that would keep us from moving forward by January, February timeframe, engaging the community on a CSIP. But we won't be doing it until we know who our next leader is and that we know that they can be a part of that process. Because if I were sitting in your seats, I would want your chief officer to make sure that they're a part of that process, and that when as your current superintendent, when I bring you a recommendation, that you can look to your incoming superintendent and say, you give this a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And that will certainly be, that'll be an exciting part for me to be able to really pass the baton, because although I will be the one delivering it to you, it doesn't do any good if it isn't going to go anywhere. So that next leader's input in that process is going to be really important.
So making sure I understand it. So our current CSIP expires at the end of 26 school year? 25, 26 school year?
So we had it in place by 2021, and we said, look, by 2026, we called it the 2026 CSIP because it gave us a target to go towards. But your fail-safe is if you don't develop a new plan this school year, you shouldn't just stop your improvement efforts. I would suggest that you just work towards the same goals for one more year and pick it up the following year.
Okay, and MSEP 6, that's
Would-
acceptable?
Would we be, is there
I
anything?
mean, we get to determine our timeline
Okay,
for how long our strategic plan lasts, and then we pick new annual priorities every year. So, I mean, I think we wouldn't
we'd
be.
still be in compliance?
Correct.
So you have a safety net.
Okay, that's at the end of the day where I was going with that, so, okay.
So when I was a young green board member many, many years ago, I went to my first CSIP, and it was several meetings, much different environment at the time, but I sat down and immediately started talking because I'm a board member and that's what I do. And one of the much more experienced board members pulled me aside and said, your role here is simply to listen. Don't talk, show up and listen. So I think as a board, when we're in those meetings, that's really, this is the community's opportunity to really tell us what they think our priorities are, and then we can hash it out up here on the board after we have all of that material. But the role really of the board through the beginning of this process is really just to sit and listen to the community and let them tell us what they think we need to improve upon.
Very good. All right. Anything else on the annual priorities for tonight?
We'll make,
So
we have
that'll-
a couple of details to add in there, and we'll bring it back next time as an action item.
All right, next item, board member key cards for buildings. Two policies surround this, ECA and KK. And the background on this was mainly giving board members access to this building, being able to get in and out. It was the main goal. So, and this one is one that we can also either have some discussion tonight or bring it back for the workshop to have a broader discussion on the 7th of August. Does anybody have anything to discuss tonight on it?
So I have a question. So this would be just to give us access to this building, right? Since that's where we are technically
That would be the,
housed out
that
of.
would be the intended purpose, yes. I mean, I don't need access to the high school. Anytime that any of us are going into the high school or any of the other buildings, we should be with the superintendent, assistant superintendent, with somebody else. Our role is not just to show up unannounced and say, I'm gonna come in today. So,
So I think my only question would be around, I think it's a broader issue for me. I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm not even sure that we need access to this building all the time. It would just be on Thursday nights or whenever we're supposed to be here. I would like to see the district drive towards a minimum necessary standard, which would mean that a high school teacher, for example, should not, in my opinion anyway, have access to an elementary school.
so I'll let Nick add to that, but we had a discussion just a little while ago. Our new key card system is locking it down so that that doesn't happen.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I'd like to see us drive towards. Sounds like we're headed there. That's
All
great.
been purged.
Okay,
All
excellent.
that has taken place in the last week and is finalizing.
And it's still underway.
Yeah,
Okay.
so. Any more questions on that part? No? Okay, very good.
I'm curious, for the board, how much access to this building are you requesting?
Well, I think from Sarah's point, I mean, outside of myself or right now, the board president or the secretary needing to come in for signatures, things like that, I think, board, for the majority of the board on meeting nights, I don't know if we make it, if you can lock it down to specific days and times, or if it's how that works? Is it like,
Yeah, if the board, for example, wanted to authorize limited access, we can set the parameter for what that limited access is. Like, for example, tonight you approved the meeting calendar.
correct?
So we can go in now and we can set the meeting calendar, and you say that, like, as board president and secretary, you come in, if you typically want to be able to come in 40 minutes prior to a meeting, we can set that as the parameter, and it's set for the year. So then on those nights when there is a meeting, then you would have that access. The tricky part would be on nights that don't follow the schedule, you know,
Right.
then we put in a work order, or you just communicate with me and we make exceptions. But like the nights that are set for the year, we can use that as a framework and make sure you have a little bit early access. And you can also, since it is, you know, I probably wouldn't recommend actually having a policy on it. I mean, the policies already kind of frame, you know, board members as individuals, and you guys get all that and the authority as an individual. But I think by specific action, I think the board could authorize the superintendent to issue limited access to the Leadership Center. And you could either say to all board members, or you could just say to the board members who need access outside of meeting time. So you could name 1 or 2 board members who need the access. You can do it how, you can frame it however you want to frame it.
The way it's written now, is that right? That's the proper
Yes.
phrasing. Is, it's completely up to the superintendent's discretion on,
For employees.
for employees. Okay, so we could simply make it, add the term employees and school board members and leave it at the discretion of the superintendent? It would be that simple?
Well, the difference is the employees are accountable to the superintendent
Uh-huh.
and the board is not. So I can work through it with MSBA, because my thought is that it would be, and I don't know if it's a provision or what, but you would just take a motion, you would take an action to grant the access that you want to grant, or you're authorizing the superintendent to grant, and then if you want to give it a sunset or whatever. But I can find out if there is. My initial inquiry about setting policy language for it did not get didn't get the answer I was looking for. So didn't answer the question, but instead asked a new question of me. So
So are we solving a problem that really needs to be solved? How often is this occurring? I think when I was discussing this earlier, my issue was more when we were using the Jan Redding room and there were a very limited number of parking spots there. And I was parking behind the building, like all the way on the other side, and then walking way around. And I thought, wow, it'd be nice to be able to just get in. With this building, I don't know how frequently you're coming up here meeting to sign things where you would need.
Yeah, I mean,
Are we solving a problem that needs to be solved? I guess is my question.
I don't need any additional access. The building's open when I am here, so I don't, like, that's a key card for me to lose. No thanks.
I had a couple of things first, because when you look at the policy for building and ground security, it talks about employees. We are not technically employees of the school district. So technically, the policy doesn't state, I mean, it says the superintendent doesn't, but it says specifically employees. So then
Correct.
we'd have to go in, we'd have to reword that, and it is up for review, and shortly, 2017 was the last time that it was reviewed. But then I also look over in policy KK, and it specifically states that all visitors during business hours, including board members, and we just approved that in 2024. And so I personally do not need access to this building. Like, they literally see me walking up, they ding it, or I write Brad. And I'm just concerned about how we would just okayed a policy with the language, and then we would have to go in also and now change policy. And if MSBA has stated, you know, how they felt about this in the first place, I guess that's where a couple of my concerns lie.
so, I mean, as far as the policy KK, getting access and checking in, I don't look at it as different I mean, I look at them as different things. I mean, just because you come into the building doesn't mean you don't check in.
KK, or ECA says specifically employees.
Right.
We are not employees of the school. We are elected. So that highlights importantly.
Yes, for sure. That would have to change. So. And we can finish this discussion in August. I mean, you can talk to MSBA and at the workshop, we can finish the discussion and see where, if we're not gonna move forward with it, then we won't move forward with it. All right? The next one, item 3, background checks for school board members and school board candidates.
I did do some checking on this one ahead of time, and I did get a helpful, thorough answer. I thought I printed it off, but I didn't bring it with me. I think I emailed it to the group. Basically, what our reps at MSBA recommend, well, first of all, they say that as a school board member, you do have to meet state requirements. And in my interactions with a couple of you individually, it was suggested, and I think appropriately, it's logical, that if somebody passes a criminal background check to be on the school board, that would be a way to verify the state requirements of what it takes to be a school board member. When I point that out to MSBA, they see the logic in that, but the law doesn't follow that, and that MSBA says it would not be our place to make it. They would deem it more restrictive to require the passage of a background check to be a candidate or to serve on the school board, and that would be against the law. But instead, where they suggest we put our energy is that if this is important to us, that we do it more from a legislative advocacy perspective, that we try to get this requirement added to the state statute. And so whether that's either through through the board's MSBA legislative rep, or the board wanted to take a formal position and statement as a board that we then share on the MSBA, that was the suggestion that came back.
Okay. I mean, I personally feel it's pretty important that board members are able to pass a background check and that everybody can feel comfortable with who's sitting up here. So, I mean, my personal opinion based on what the routes they gave you, I would say that I would look to the board to support taking a position of advocacy and trying to put something out to the representatives to get something changed is the way I would look for us to go.
Support that.
So our options were to take a position or talk to MSBA and have them take a position? Why can't we do both, I guess?
Well, we
can
could
do
do
both.
both.
We could
Okay.
take a
For sure.
position, and
I
then
mean,
your
yeah.
rep, and Mr. Pollard, are you the rep?
you are our MSBA
Yeah.
rep.
Then it would give you at your next meeting. It would give you a specific charge from the board to say this. We think this would be a positive move
We don't
forward.
take very many advocacy positions, so here's one.
Sounds like we're going to have one.
And then, so would you be able to put some
Yep.
type of statement together also from a
And I'll
district standpoint?
I'll ask around, and I'll get some input on the best way to frame that and bring that back to the board for review and action.
All right. So outside of that, policy BBA-1 will remain as is.
For now.
Yeah.
But we're going to make a change to the law.
I have two statutes that I need to get changed. All right.
The other one's not on the agenda.
Yeah, the one is not on
Can I
the
play that card?
The next item on the agenda is cell phone stipends.
Yes, we have for many years issued district-issued devices, district-issued cell phones to certain administrators that the function of being available or managing now the apps on the phones, that it's an expectation of the job. We, for several reasons, want to get out of the cell phone business, and we've actually already begun the transition. So between the cost and the liability of when we issue a device to an administrator to do official business, but they use the device to also text their spouse, well, that is a district-issued device, and so there's some liability issues there about what happens on that district-issued device, right? It doesn't mean it's something that's inappropriate, it's just not school business, but because it's on our device, it's school business. So we've already made the decision that we're getting out of the cell phone business. What we would like to instead do and bring before the board is a proposal to give these designated administrators a stipend instead. So we've checked the numbers, and a $50 stipend per month for those required and expected to use their then would be expected to use their personal devices to do school business, is from an operational cost standpoint, from a plan, it's pretty much a wash. The cost savings, though, is that we wouldn't be buying the phones anymore. So the cell phones was the additional expense that was a recurring expense. So we bring you a list of names of employees. This is not an action item tonight, but we bring you the names of the employees and their roles. But this is a new concept, so that's why we wanted to bring it as a discussion item tonight.
Yes, sir?
No, you were starting with questions. Go ahead.
So my question is not necessarily about the list. I'm in support of the measure to move forward in this way. My question is about Parent Square and staff members going back to the summer SOAR program and pictures. What, I guess, how that's handled from a teacher standpoint. I mean, they're using their personal devices, as
Yes.
Jared had brought up, to take pictures. Are they signing something saying they are not going to do anything with those pictures? They destroy those pictures after they take them? What is our process around that as well?
Yeah, what control, kind of building on that, what controls will be in place? Do we have a VPN? Do we have minimum standards that we will require? If their phone is stolen or lost, would we be able to remotely wipe it? Are we looking at any of those types of provisions, or is it just, hey, here's $50 and that's it?
Mostly, we would just be giving them a stipend for the trouble of using their personal device for business. But no teachers are involved in this, so any teacher use, that's already a different set of provisions. And Jared, to yours a bit, is we still have some district issued cell phones. And I would lean on Dr. Gooch to give us examples of who those are, but it's like five district issued cell phones. Give us an example of why we would still have a handful of district issued cell phones.
So the operations department has one that sits on the the admin assistant's desk for usage of contacting substitute custodians, people who kind of come and go from that office. That's not a job duty of the director or the supervisor of maintenance, but that's more of an administrative role. But she needs to be able to do it at times outside of regular business hours. So she has that capability by having a district cell phone, but that's pretty much strictly what she uses it for.
I guess that wasn't really what I was driving at. A phone now is more than a phone. Like, it's a way of doing business. I get my email on it. I get text messages on it. I have Teams on here, Microsoft Teams. Most of that is work. It's not, like the Microsoft Teams is on here. It's my personal device, but I use it for work. This has a VPN in it so that it's protecting any emails I send. And I don't know how many emails would be confidential that anyone on this list would send, but it may be something you'd want to consider. Also, if this were stolen, even though I have a mandatory password, which I don't know that you're required to have a password on your phone for work, if it were stolen, and they could remotely wipe it.
The liability would still go the other way.
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't the liability still go the other way, is what you're saying? Whether,
Yeah, I'm saying, how do we protect?
100%.
It's now their device. I don't know if we had those protections on the devices that we issued. So it really probably isn't relevant to this list. I fully support what you're doing.
But it's
I'm
more about
just
the
saying,
functions.
consider the controls that you want to put in place as you're
And-
doing this.
Okay.
with the personal phone
And
numbers,
can you mandate that?
if it's a personal
Can the
device, no.
district mandate that, okay, you're gonna use your personal phone and you have to put this stuff on it?
Mm-mm.
I think if they want our stipend,
Yeah.
we
you-
can have that.
You can, yeah, you can say, if
But-
you're not willing to do that, then yeah, we're gonna issue you one of these other phones, I
Right, we're
guess.
back in the phone business.
Yeah, and we're never gonna get out of the phone business, right? I mean, we're still gonna have
There
some.
might be a small
Yeah.
handful, but not very many.
I know that was the challenge that we had in our company it was, okay, we want you to do this and this and this with your personal phone. And they're like, I don't wanna do that. Okay, well, I can't make you do that, so now we have to
Right,
give you a phone.
but if you give them a stipend, then you can make them do that. And honestly, they should, most people would appreciate the extra layer of protection that you're providing. It's not.
Some people aren't as spry as you and I.
Yeah, so I don't think it would be an issue. Maybe it would be that people wouldn't want to do that.
Did you say
but
spry?
he said spry. That's,
I haven't heard that one in a while.
yeah, me either.
So
Pretty
I
spry
do have
for a
one
white
question
guy.
about the VPN.
Yeah.
I'm just going to need help with that. I mean, I know what a VPN is. Is there a subscription to that as well? So if we were to say, the $50 at this point is basically covering, or it's almost like Dr. Welly said, a wash from what the plan has been over the last many years. If we were going to give somebody $50, but then require a VPN that was $14.99 a month, then is it more appropriate for us to say, we'll give you $65, but we're going to require you to have the VPN functioning on your machine as well?
If you think the VPN is necessary, it may not be. That's something your technology department should
Sure.
probably consider. Yeah, I'm in a situation where I'm worried about HIPAA and other regulations that you're not probably worried about. So it may not be necessary, and it may also be something that Google provides on their.
Yeah, and
That's an email thing, so it may be
Yeah.
something that they're already providing through Google. So it may not be necessary. I'm a little over my skis. I just think
No,
you
it's
should
okay.
consider
Now, these are great questions.
consider all of these things if you're going to do business on your personal phone, even if we're paying a stipend. I think there need to be controls in place. That's really all.
No, we appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, could be.
All right. So as far as the cell phone stipend, we're gonna work on,
We've got
Some-
we've got some other things to look into. The stipend issue itself. Well, we'll make sure that we get the VPN issue resolved, how we're going to proceed, so that you're only approving these stipends one time. But we'll get on that, and this list will come back to you either at the workshop or at the meeting a month from now.
and I think also to Jared's point about, password protected or the code lock, I think that has to be a mandatory,
It was the first thing I wrote down, absolutely. That's a no-brainer of a
Right.
requirement, so yes.
Very good.
All right. The next item, the MSBA Annual Conference, October 23 through 25.
Yes, MSBA has they have their website up and rolling for the event, and I don't know if you can register yet or not, but you can get a preview of their outline. Please let Ms. Clappin know if you plan to attend. It will be hosted in Kansas City again this year, and I believe so the pre-conference is on the 22nd, and that conference itself is the 23rd through the 25th.
All right, very good. That will take us to board policies. The first one will be BBFA, Board Member Conflict of Interest and Financial Disclosure. This one only has to be redone every other year, I believe.
It's
but we
really
go ahead
every
and do
other
it
year, but-
every year,
Mhm.
just to be safe.
And this allows all of us that are involved to be able to be authorized to file a short form with the Missouri Ethics Commission annually. So
Correct.
first reading on all of these tonight.
Yep. So all, like Dr. Willie just said, all these are first reads. We'll go through them in more detail at the workshop on August 7th. I can read all of them if you'd like, or we can just say everybody has viewed them and we will talk about them on August 7th. The latter has been selected. All right, very good. That will take us to executive session. I would look for a motion to adjourn and go into executive session under section 610.022, subsections 610.021, 3, and 13.
Second.
All right, any discussion? No? Jared? Yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Julie? Yes. Jason? Lance?
Yes.
Aaron? And I'm a yes. All right, that takes us to adjournment. Thank you for coming.